Celtic suffered a brutal defeat yesterday, and now questions are being asked about the manager's decisions. A pundit is calling the squad gutless and weak, and the recruitment disaster has been labelled self-inflicted. Plus, a Celtic defender on loan in Germany could be about to leave permanently. It's been a rough 24 hours, but first make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Celtic's injury worries have been well documented this season, but honestly, it wasn't hard for the transfer department to see this coming. Jota was already ruled out for much of this season before the summer transfer window even opened. Cameron Carter-Vickers had to have a tidy-up operation in the summer. That should have told Celtic they needed reinforcements. Any competent club would have made moves. Instead, what did Celtic do? They sold Nicholas Kuhn and Adam Idah in the summer, without replacing either of them in the transfer window. After the window had slammed shut, the Hoops panicked and swooped for Iheanacho, whose contract had just been ripped up. He made his first start since December on Sunday. The recruitment has been a major player in the unrest at Celtic this season. Rodgers wasn't backed in the summer, and O'Neill was left with subpar loan players in January. Joel Mvuka, who is probably supposed to be the Kuhn replacement, has impressed absolutely no one. He hasn't made a start since his debut and only featured against Rangers in extra time since then. Stephen McGowan says the damage this season has been self-inflicted, and honestly, he's not wrong. Writing in the Herald on Monday morning, he said that while injuries to key players Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Alistair Johnston have clearly had a detrimental impact on the starting 11, much of the damage is self-inflicted. Complacency, the sale of important goal scorers, the arrival of mediocre replacements, the appointments of Paul Tisdale as head of football operations, and Nancy, and a refusal to swing and miss has created a Celtic team straight out of 1994. He went on to say that Wayne Biggins and Stuart Slater could barely have looked any less menacing than their attacking options did yesterday. The failure to spend on a consistent, dependable, goal-scoring striker has left O'Neill chopping and changing up front, throwing jelly at the wall, hoping something sticks. Preparations for next season have to be underway now, but do any of us actually trust the club to get things right? I highly doubt it. Now for the main story, as Mike Naroki rarely put a foot wrong at Celtic, yet he was shipped out on loan last summer. Cameron Carter-Vickers had just gone under the knife, and there were some concerns about his fitness, but the Polish defender headed to Germany on loan anyway. After struggling for minutes at the start of the season, Naroki has worked his way into the starting 11 and is really impressing in the back three. He scored the only goal in Hanover's Friday night win, making it goals in back-to-back games. Hanover are pushing for promotion and are just 3 points off the top spot, sitting in fifth. It's very tight in the second division of German football, and here's the big news. He could remain at the club permanently. Both sides agreed a £2 million option to buy last summer, but there is a condition. Hanover 96 Managing Director Jörg Schmatke has said that any permanent move will depend on what league Hanover are in next season. They'll make their decision late. He told Bild that it depends on which league they're in. A final decision will be relatively late. You'd imagine he'll only get the move if Hanover go up. A £2 million transfer for a second-tier side is pretty steep, especially when you assume there will need to be some cutbacks made if they're down there for another season. In other news, Celtic managed just 3 shots on target in a must-win game in the title race. Travelling to Tayside to face Dundee United, who had 1 win in 5 league games heading into the match, the Hoops were expecting a much easier ride. But they were taught a lesson by Jim Goodwin's side, who actually had more touches in the opposition box than Celtic. It was Martin O'Neill's first ever defeat against the side as Celtic manager, and it was the 3rd time that the Hoops had lost in the city this season, once against Dundee and twice against their rivals. This Celtic team don't actually deserve to win the league, it must be said. In fact, they don't even deserve to be in the running for it. If Motherwell hadn't fallen off in the last few match days, Celtic could genuinely have been looking at a 4th place finish. Of course, there are plenty of twists and turns to come in the next 7 games, but you don't feel that Celtic can avoid more slip-ups. Stephen McGowan says the current squad are gutless and doesn't have what it takes to win this race for the title, and honestly, he's spot on. Writing in the Herald, he said that the current lot are gutless, mentally and physically weak, and devoid of endeavour or physicality in key departments. They were bullied and outplayed by a Dundee United side with little or no chance of reaching the top 6 and finished the game shapeless and all over the place. At no point did they look likely to stage a fight back or score a goal. It sums up where Celtic are at the moment, miles off it. In other news, the warning signs for Celtic were there before kick-off in their defeat to Dundee United. When the full-time whistle went at 2 o'clock, the Hoops had dropped their 8th league point of the season. 3 of those have actually come in the city of Dundee. The loss is massive in terms of the title race, with Celtic now 5 points off league leaders Hearts with 7 games left to play. Rangers are now also above the Hoops. The champions have lost more games than Hearts, Rangers, Motherwell and Hibs, and are not showing the form that will see them retain their title. But the writing was almost on the wall heading into the match, as Keith Jackson explained. As fans were arriving in Dundee, news dropped that Iheanacho was set for his first start in hoops since December. The last time he was on from the beginning was the League Cup final against St Mirren. Jackson wrote in the record that even before a ball had been kicked, there was a very telling indication of the trouble just up ahead. He said it was only a minor tweak to his team selection, but even so, it said a great deal about the predicaments with which O'Neill is grappling as he leads Celtic into the business end of this tumultuous Through the Looking Glass campaign. The return from nowhere of the lesser-spotted Kelechi Iheanacho was a sure sign of the levels of desperation which are undermining Celtic's league title defence. Tomas Kvankara missed out due to illness. He was training on Friday but didn't feel well enough to make the trip. Celtic were also without Julian Araujo, who has returned to Bournemouth for treatment. The Hoops head into this international break on a low and need to regroup. Lastly, James McFadden has questioned some of Martin O'Neill's decisions during Celtic's defeat at Tannadice, with the former Scotland international pointing to key moments where the game shifted. Celtic started with control of the ball, but never created enough in the final third. When Dundee United took the lead, the game opened up, and that is when the changes came. O'Neill looked to alter things, both in terms of shape and personnel. Callum McGregor was taken off, Reo Hatate moved to right back, and Kelechi Iheanacho was withdrawn as Celtic chased the game. Those moves changed how Celtic looked. The structure became less settled, and the attacking play lost some of its focus, especially through the middle. McFadden picked up on that, questioning whether the changes helped or took something away from the team. He said on Sky Sports that some of the changes he didn't really understand. He knows that Iheanacho hasn't played a lot of football, but he thinks McGregor coming off and moving Hatate to right back didn't help. With Iheanacho, yes, he's going to tire, but tell him not to run around so much and be the focal point. McFadden said they lose quite a bit when he comes off. He doesn't know if it was pre-planned that he only played a certain amount of the game, but that and putting Hatate to right back was questionable. The point about Iheanacho stands out. While he was not fully match fit, he still gave Celtic a presence through the middle. Once he went off, that outlet disappeared, and the ball did not stick in the same way. Moving Hatate also had an effect. It took a player out of midfield who can carry the ball and play forward passes, and placed him into a role where his focus had to change. That left Celtic trying to push forward without the same balance. That's all the latest Celtic news for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Hail, hail.